Hello, my name is Chris. I run GamesIndustry.biz and welcome to the Best Places to Work Awards sessions. As part of the week where we will reveal the best places to work in the UK games industry, we have put together a series of sessions tackling some of the trickiest issues facing games companies today. We have sessions on inclusivity and diversity, climate change and environmental issues, and today we are talking about mental health and well-being. To discuss this very important topic, we have put together an expert panel to give advice and share stories about what they do to support their staff. So I'm pleased to welcome Sarah, Heidi, and another Sarah. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us. Obviously, I think we should begin with introductions. It's always the best way to do things. So who are you? What do you do? And why are you here? Shall we start with Sarah Howell? Shall we start with you?
Yep. Hi, so I'm Sarah Howe. I'm the head of HR at Creative Assembly. I've worked for 6 years in the company now, and I've been in the HR world for about 15 years. And my first role within the games industry is Creative Assembly. For me, it's such an exciting industry to be in. Absolutely love it, and particularly with Creative Assembly, I think my personal values match them because people very much come first. So in terms of health and well-being, that's always something we're talking about on a pretty regular occurrence. So yeah, excellent match for me. Really like the games industry.
Good. And I'll pass over to the other Sarah.
Hi. So yes, I'm Sarah from Safe in Our World. Safe in Our World is a relatively new charity set up to create and foster worldwide mental health awareness within the video games industry. It was only created in October 2019, and I've actually been in post 1 year today. I'm new to the games industry like Sarah, so this is my first role, but I've worked in the charity industry for over 20 years, and I've worked on mental health projects with children during that time too. So I'm absolutely loving working at Safe in Our World and really looking forward to the discussion today.
Great. And Heidi.
Hello, I'm Heidi Slee. I'm the HR manager at Third Kind Games, which is an indie studio in Leamington Spa. I've been in the HR world probably for about 9 years now and have a background in many different sectors before I came to games. I've been here in the games industry for just over a year now. Much like Sarah Howell, I find it to be just a really exciting industry to be part of. Where I've come into, I've very much had to set quite a lot of things up. But what's been fantastic is everything's been massively embraced by the team. Literally, the values here, just like Sarah's mentioned as well, it's fantastic values within the teams which work in this industry, and I'm sure together we can share some insight as to what we've done to kind of keep those things going, especially kind of a lot of studios tend to have a family ethos, so we are really looking after each other, so hopefully I can contribute some today as well.
Wow, great. Well, we have a lot of newbies, as we would sort of say in the games industry, with us today. So I was going to ask about how the mental health situation in your place of work has changed over the years, but I guess that's perhaps Sarah, you could answer that one. But I know that from my time, it wasn't something that was ever talked about when I started in games 14 years ago, and now it seems to be talked about a lot. Is it that we've just become a little bit more accepting or acknowledging of these things, or is there a sort of deeper problem going on? Is it specific to games? I don't know who can answer that question. Sarah, sorry, you've dealt with mental health issues your entire career. I mean,
yeah, I mean, obviously, I've only been in the industry a short time, but I think it's always been a bit of an issue within the games industry. Maybe not always something that was talked about, but I know one of the first things I learned when I joined was from a UK survey that if you work within the video games industry, you are something like 31% more likely to suffer with mental health condition as opposed to 17% outside the industry. So it was quite apparent why Safe in Our World was set up to me. There was more that needed to be done to support the industry. I think we'll talk about some of the issues that crop up as we go through the panel, but I think it's really important just to take it seriously within our industry. There's a lot of long hours, there's a lot of hard deadlines, and it really is something that I know Safe in Our World has embraced, and we want to be the place to go to help. Just outside of that as well, Safe in Our World does also look after gamers too, so it's not all just about the industry. We do look out for them as well. But yeah, I think it makes our job so important, but we've got some great advocates within the industry. The companies that we're talking to today with Heidi and Sarah have really embraced it, and I think they've probably been embracing it for a while, but because of where we've been with the pandemic, I think it's more important than ever. So from my point of view, yeah, the games industry do need the help, but I think we're in a really good place to give it.
Nice. Is that something that's agreed by the panel?
Yeah,
oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, I would definitely agree. I think prior to the COVID situation, well-being, mental health, talking about it has always been a priority of ours. But since COVID has happened, I think the whole landscape has changed. It's come to the forefront even more, and more people are talking about it, which I think is really valuable. I think Mind Charity have said around a third of people have struggled since the COVID lockdown with their mental health. So I think as companies, we're encouraging people to talk, and it's affected everybody differently. I'd say we've had some people who have actually felt better because of their situation since lockdown. Whatever has changed for them has been a more positive impact, but we've definitely seen within our company a pretty big increase in well-being discussions happening. They're really, they're healthy discussions, and it involves everybody. I think right from Gareth, our studio director, the senior leadership team, we're all really open to discuss it, and I think that's really key.
Yeah, I was just going to add that I think what I've noticed that's quite different in this industry, and possibly it's because of when I came into it, we were in lockdown, but I think people are almost a little bit better at talking about it, and perhaps that's because of the cultures that have been fostered. Very much sometimes it's helping people to articulate how they feel and improving relationships so that people can openly talk. From personal experience, I would say that people were very open with me as to any support that they needed, and I could help them have those conversations. And regardless of what someone's position in the company was or is, they very much will talk to each other and ask for help. And I think that's something that before the pandemic came along, perhaps people weren't so willing to talk about things. Some people, as Sarah said, they embrace it because they perhaps like to be on their own, they're an insular person, but some people never realise that perhaps suddenly I feel away and I never realised I felt this, or this is a new experience for me. So people are identifying with mental health in a completely different way as to how they did before. And of course, going forward, people have got a lot of feelings, regardless of where they're working, whether that be in an office space or working from home or combination. We've got a lot of feelings anyway about going to meet people. But of course, we all together, we can create a fantastic way of talking about things and signposting people to help if they need it.
Well, you touched upon there the sort of situation we're having with lockdown, where we're sort of we're out. Are we out of it? I think we're out of it. I can never quite keep up. But when people are talking about returning to the office, maybe not this year, but soon. Has that sparked you, Sarah and Heidi, to sort of think more about the sort of how staff are going to react to that, or the mental well-being of staff in relation to that, and if so, how, in what way?
So for us, it's really it's changed. The last year and a half, we've really had to rethink what support we offer. Is that still the right support? If it is, how do we promote that? If we need to add more support options, what would that be? How would people access those? So I think it's just made us realise that it's so important to adapt, change, and really listen to your staff, because they're the most valuable point of information. So we've asked ourselves those questions. We've really realised that we need to, as we move forward, continue to adapt, continue to put in checks along the way, and just make sure that what we are offering is still relevant, because expectations, I think, amongst employees is very different now.
Yeah, I think what we did probably is along similar lines. Very much we were asking the team how they felt quite regularly about, if the office space does open up, is that something that you want to embrace? Would you prefer to stay working from home? Everybody's got a different personal situation, haven't they? So very much all along the way, it's been about checking how people feel. Even when we were making preparations to reopen our office space, it's never been a situation of you've got to come in. We very much opened our office space, for example, for those who felt they needed to be somewhere, whether that was because it's less distractions for them or they just wanted to be with other people. So that's very much the kind of approach we've taken. There's no pressure to return, but if you do want to connect with people, because some people, of course, have never met each other as well, depends on where you work. I only met some of the team maybe 4 weeks ago. So, sometimes it's those connections that we're missing. And everybody does have different feelings. Some people have popped in for a day, some people don't want to yet. But it is very much, as you said, listening to what your team are saying and how they're feeling. And sometimes it's not about what they say, it's about what they don't say or how they say it. And very much starting those conversations off, whether or not that's conversations that you've already had, or thinking about educating people on mental health as well, because we all have good and bad mental health, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, all I was going to add to that is one of our trustees runs a recruitment company, and she said the way the industry is starting to change with new recruits coming in, the amount of people that just want to look for jobs that's working from home now is huge. Compared to what it was, because a lot of people have found their comfort zone is working from home and they don't want to go back into the office. Now, that may be a good thing, it may be a bad thing, but I think it's something the industry are going to have to take on board. And obviously, we've all changed the way we work with Zoom calls. And I think that's going to be a massive thing going forward for companies to allow that flexibility to make people safe. A lot of people are still worried about getting on a train or on a tube or on a bus. So I think it is going to take a while for people to regain their confidence. And I think it will have a lasting effect on the industry, in that we do have to be a bit more flexible about how we allow our teams, our talent, to be in a place where they can work their best because they feel safe and supported.
I guess interestingly, I went outside. I went to Games Industry Things. I went to see studios in the last week, and I've not done that in 18 months. I worked from home before this, so for me it wasn't a big change initially, but I did miss seeing the industry, and I was so looking forward to going into London. I was really looking forward to pop into the studio and seeing people in the industry. I was very excited about it, actually. I thought, this finally I could do it. Actually, about, I'd say, 30 minutes into the journey into London, and I felt quite overwhelmed. And it's interesting because, of course, there's the people that tell you beforehand how they think they're going to feel when they go into the office, and how they think they're going to feel, and it actually may not actually be the case when they actually go and do it. And I think maybe that flexibility as well, for everybody, just to understand that just because they said yesterday how excited they were coming to the office, it doesn't mean that that's how they'll feel when they do come in.
And I totally agree, and I think that adapting part of what we're going to all have to do going forward is just going to be so key to everything, because it's so individual, isn't it? Like you say, people feel so differently to what they did before, and other people that may not have been affected by things before are now. So it's so changeable, and that ability for us to to use our expertise to share with other leaders within the business to just impart those insights, because we're quite close, I guess, to lots of different people in the company, and we can keep sharing those insights to help us move forward and make people feel safe and comfortable and happy.
Yeah, well, we'll see how that's all to play out anyway. It hasn't gone away,
No.
and we'll I guess we'll all hopefully find our comfort zones one way or another. Well, I know that in doing the Best Places to Work Awards, I know quite a lot of games companies have it sort of employer assistant programs in the way that they sort of offer to support their staff. And I know a lot of them have been promoted quite hard as well around during the pandemic. And these, for those that are listening or watching and don't know what that is, they often offer all forms of assistance to employees, such as financial, legal, counselling services, that sort of thing. But I also know from what I'm told that the take up of these can be quite low, or employees take notice of them perhaps at the last minute when things are getting to a crisis point. Do you, Heidi, Sarah, do you have an EAP or something similar? And if so, how are you working with staff to sort of encourage people to take that up?
Yes, so ours just recently launched. I actually worked with Sarah from Safe in Our World. We actually worked together on looking for a suitable employee assistance provider. And very much I found that in order to embed something, dependent on what it is, I found that it was actually quite helpful to have somebody as a representative from the EAP or employee assistance provider come on and actually do a presentation, because also they can answer all the questions that somebody might have in a different way than perhaps I can. I've made sure that for in our instance, we have an HR portal where all the links, you can just access it from the homepage. So every single link is there. You just press a button and you're straight into it. There were some people I gave them early access before it was launched because I felt it would benefit them. It did take them a couple of days to make contact with the EAP, but then I caught up with them afterwards and just said, do you feel better for doing it? And they said, absolutely. I think sometimes there's a little bit about making it sure it's delivered in such a way to the team that they understand everything that is of benefit to them. And one of the major things is, will my conversation be kept confidential? That's a massive one. And the representative I had from our chosen EAP, she was able to say, yeah, absolutely, it'll be confidential. We also selected one that has translators in, I think it was like 240 languages, because we do have a lot of people, I think it's quite popular in the industry, you've got a lot of people who are multilingual, more so perhaps than some other places outside the industry. So we found that's really, really helpful. I had people straight away messaging me saying, I'm literally so glad that the business is taking mental health so seriously. So I think making sure that people really understand how it works, having a really simple link as to where to go to if I want to sign up or I want more information. And one of the other key ones as well was very much making sure that our managers, or leads as we call them, were really aware of how they could signpost somebody to the EAP, or what those resources, how they could be helpful to them too. All of those pieces together, I found it's made sure that it's landed really, really well, and everybody knows what the EAP is there for and how to access it if they need to. And having it in for such a short time, we've already had quite a lot of people access it, which I think is massive benefit. And I think that's a massive step for anybody to kind of call and ask for help, or however you want to contact them, because I do find a lot of EAPs, there are multiple ways to contact them, which is brilliant for people as well if you don't want to talk. So that's been kind of my experience, and it's been embraced a lot faster here than it has in any other industry I've worked in.
Wow,
yeah, we have got an EAP system. We've had it embedded for quite a while now. We use that very actively, particularly within the HR team as well, in terms of using it as part of a range of options that we can provide. But as Heidi said, I think it is that confidentiality part which is really key. So it's that external, neutral side who aren't going to pass any judgment, and that education around it's not just for one particular issue that you might want to chat through. It does have a whole range, so it's that kind of like life experience challenges that come up on a regular basis that you can access that service for. So we in a similar position to Heidi, we do communicate it via other resources as well, as much as we can. So our leadership teams, our diversity inclusion networks, and our employee resource groups, internal ambassadors, anybody we possibly can, to make sure that they've got the awareness of the programme and the full benefits that are there, to be able to push that out. And quite often in our studio messaging, if there's anything that's changing, changes happening, we've had a lot of that recently, we do make sure we remind people, because the danger is, I guess, if you just let it sit somewhere and you don't talk about it, it will just not get accessed. It'll just sit on an intranet site. So we quite regularly give the links, push them out, and just explain to people it might not be the right option right now, but don't let that stop you in the future. If something else were to come up, it's always there as a very proactive tool that you can use.
Yeah, I think to build on it as well, I think what a lot of people who have never used that kind of service don't often realise is that quite often when you do get through to somebody, you're quite often speaking directly to, for example, a counsellor, or you might have to get moved to somebody who can speak to you from a legal perspective, if that's what the reason is you're calling. But you're quite quickly speaking to the right person. So, some people are fearful that, for example, if we phone the doctors, we're fearful that we're going to be triaged over the phone, whereas they might have to triage you to a degree, but you're quite quickly speaking to the right person. You're not waiting for lengthy periods to get that assistance if you need it.
Yeah, as Heidi said, we spent quite a few calls going through various EAPs and the benefits, because it was really important for us at SAFE to know what to advise companies to do. And I very quickly established that EAPs are a great idea and are very affordable. If you've got 20 plus staff, they're literally probably less than £100 a month. They are, and there's lots out there, lots to choose from. So I think, they offer some great benefits. It can be for the other members of the family, not just the employee. Some offer, obviously, in the legal and the financial help as well. You might be suffering with something that's more financial rather than actually directly a mental health issue. So there's lots of other benefits, and reduced gym memberships and etc. But the bit that I'm happy that we've been able to do is that Safe in Our World is going to produce an umbrella policy. So if you're a small company, a small studio that's only got 2, 3, 4 staff, you can come to us and we can cover you under an umbrella policy. So I'm really pleased to be able to offer that out to the industry, to come and speak to me if they've only got a small amount of staff, so an EAP themselves wouldn't be viable, to come and talk to us, because we'd be able to sort that out for them. But yeah, very much in favour of EAPs and just making sure your staff know you've got them. I think they're brilliant for bridging that gap that I think you mentioned earlier, Chris, between maybe you're not feeling great, you could do with talking to somebody, to then hitting crisis point a couple of months later. And I think it can be a great prevention tool to stop you then having to go to your GP and, hitting a real low. I think it can be great as that first step to stop things getting to crisis point. So yeah, they're really, really useful.
Brilliant. And if for super small teams that want to get in touch, Sarah, how do they reach you?
Oh, they can reach me on our website. If you hello@safeinourworld.com, will come straight to my team, and we can pick it up from there. There's also, if they become a Level Up partner, we can get them involved straight away that way. So lots of information on our website, which we're going to be launching very shortly, some extra resources for our Level Up companies. But I'll talk about that a little bit later, I think.
Okay, brilliant. Well, I mean, another problem with, I don't know if it's a problem with video games, it's definitely a problem I've got, is sort of always never really taking holiday. I think the words I've got in front of me are presenteeism and leaveism, which is, you know, I'm often on holiday, but if you drop me an email, I can reply to it, and we'll reply to it half the time. I've even been known, in fact, very recently, to go into work even though I really wasn't feeling very well. And I know that in games, they use the word passion a lot in video games to sort of excuse this, but it's seen as sort of something that you just do. Do you have sort of some good examples within your organizations, sort of how this behavior can be curbed or changed in any way?
Definitely. I think for that to work, very much around role modeling the good behaviors. So from, you know, right from senior leadership through all the different layers, is just making sure that if we want to promote a culture which is make sure you do take time out, look after your well-being, is to not then be sending emails out of hours too often unless it's, you know, really urgent. That should be the exception. And also just creating, I guess, focus time. So we tried a focus week recently, which was really beneficial. I think people felt that level of, you can just take a bit of time, catch up on what you need to catch up, and then felt like they were ready for a bit of a annual leave period. And I think for us, it's just making sure that leadership can spot the signs of potential burnout, because, as you say, it's quite it's a big thing for our industry. People are very passionate. People can find it hard to switch off because they're just really invested in what they're doing. So we just promote through our leadership teams as well the benefits of really taking that time out, coming back refreshed, and feeling like you're kind of ready and raring to go again. So yeah, I think leading by example is absolutely key with this to make it work, and onboarding new starters as well into those behaviours, so making sure they're aware that that is our culture, that is the way we work, and to be okay to speak up if they spot signs that people aren't actually doing that. Another thing we do, which we find works really well, so within the HR team, we can run reports, we can look at if there's, you know, at the whole company, if there's quite a lot of people that have got a lot of annual leave left, then we can work with the development teams and encourage the leads to have healthy conversations with their team members to say, you know, we know that you've not really taken much leave. Is there a reason for that? Can I help you with that? Are there any workload pressures? And making sure that people understand, again, the benefits of taking that time out.
Has that been harder with the pandemic? Because I guess I know that some people don't really want to take holiday when they're not able to go anywhere, but you've also got that situation where people sort of might move their hours around and they have to rush out at home to sort something out with their childcare, and they think, oh, I'll work a little bit on Saturday morning to make up for that. And then it must be really hard to sort of track and keep an eye on all that.
Yeah, for sure. And it's really that flexibility again, and that's something that we realise is going to be here for some time now. It's something that we will continue to adapt and keep listening to our staff to make sure that we're hearing them for anything that they need. So yeah, you're right. I mean, during the lockdown, there are a lot of parents who had to do homeschooling, so working hours had to kind of fit around that. So again, it was really around that leadership and having discussions, healthy discussions, to say you can apply flexibility. Just make sure that you talk to your team, be close with them, spot the signs if they're not being honest about how they're finding their workloads. And it's something, again, Gareth at Creative Assembly, he really pushes that message, and I think that's really important, because he will talk about taking annual leave, the fact that he does it, you need to do it, it's really healthy. People have got a lot of leave left where people have thought, do you know what, I'm not going to take it because I'm not going anywhere. We've really pushed to say still take some, you will really feel the benefits of it. And as I say, Gareth promotes that as well, which is really valuable.
And I think I would echo exactly what Sarah just said there. I mean, everything at Third Kind has been led from the top, very much from a annual leave point of view. Yes, last year there was a lot of I'm not going anywhere, I don't want to take any time off. I'd say I think there was only one person though by the end of our leave year who had a few days, and we just carried them over just to the first few days of the new holiday year. And I think very much though it has been a case of checking in with everybody. Do you know how to book annual leave? You know, sometimes it's reminding them of those days of like your birthday, your partner's birthday, your children's birthdays, things like that, anniversaries, whether they be nice anniversaries or ones where perhaps you just want a bit of alone time. But very much a lot around flexibility. We've, I'm sure other places may have done it, but we've enabled people to, if England is not their home country, we've enabled them to go and work from home in their home countries with their families, as long as it, you know, it's not conflicted with their settlement status in any way. And then they've taken annual leave to travel and spend time with family, which has enabled them that rest time. Also very much ensuring that the work is scoped in such a way that actually you don't need to work extra, or if you have done a couple of hours extra today, make sure you take it back tomorrow. I think all of those things is talking to your team very much and letting them know it's okay, we are a team, and if something, you know, if something's a little bit later, we know we've got that buffer of time to get that done. It's okay, somebody else will help you. And literally all of the leadership team here, they get stuck in with everything just as much as any other team member. So, you know, they're programming alongside them, for example. So everybody is very much really knitted in closely together and talking to each other. And I think if somebody is really, really struggling, then there is a little bit of, you know, it's okay to leave it. We will work together. You need to switch off and you need to take some time for yourself and come back refreshed. I think there's a little bit around definitely with presenteeism where people feel the onus is on them. And it is that culture of we are a team, we will get this done together, don't worry.
Yeah.
Just also, I was just
No,
going to
go on.
add very, very quickly, just add as well. It's supporting the leadership as well, because we've spoken a lot about leadership, I guess, within this session. So that's something that we're really focusing on as well. We've, you know, HR teams, we're dealing with a lot at the moment in terms of well-being and making sure people are looking after themselves. It's about looking after each other as well. If you know, having a team can be really, you've got to balance that, you've got to balance your workload. So making sure we're building that support network around those people who are having regular discussions to encourage people to look after their well-being and take time out.
Yeah, all I was going to say is I've really found in this industry it is that kind of always on. You know, there's very little boundaries sometimes which between your work life and your home life, and I think that is one of the downsides of working from home. There is that, am I working from home? Am I living at work? You know, you're in the same space the whole time, and I think it is really important to just spot the signs on each other, you know, and people are very good at covering up things, you know. Oh, I love working, you know, it doesn't matter, I don't mind replying to emails late at night. It's not good for you. Presenteeism can lead quite easily to burnout. And there's some horrible statistic that it costs the employees something like £45 billion a year in the UK due to people working when they shouldn't, leading to burnout, leading to time off. And so it is, it's really, really important that you start to look after yourselves. We always have the holy grail here of you need to eat and drink healthy, you need to exercise more, you need to get some sleep, and you need to look after yourself. They're really simple things that we all know, but sometimes we forget to do them. And I think it's so easy. We've got mobile phones with every app that we use at work on. So someone will send you a Discord message at 11 and you reply to it. So it's just trying to set some boundaries to make sure you have that time away, because whilst you think it's not affecting you, in the long run, it will do. So I think, yeah, it is just very much awareness and looking out for each other.
Yeah, and I think it's worth, and I know this is a bit of a sideways looking at it, the games industry is actually, and compared to other industries during the pandemic, the games industry has come out of it very well. Yeah. And I know that there's always hiring issues because the talent that we need is still developing, but it's not the end of the world. if that thing that you're doing isn't quite on time, it's a good chance your company's very, very well off, particularly if you work in game development or game publishing. There are other areas of the games industry, but other industries that are where things are different. You know, there've been massive redundancies, and there's been and workloads have shifted and got bigger, and all these sort of things. If you work in an events company, you know what I'm talking about. And that makes situations like this even worse. But even in those situations, it's even more important to take time and look after yourself, because you are needed. And being burnt out and stressed and angry and upset, or that doesn't help. Yeah, I agree. And I'm not the best. Now I'm a manager, I need to get better myself at putting those barriers up between my life and my work. And I think so. I agree with everything that you've all said. And I'm conscious of the time, so I'm going to finish off, I think, with a big question. There will be games companies that don't think too much about this. They might sort of in principle do it. They might do conversationally, but they perhaps don't always. They may not have EAPs. They may not have entire strategies around this. So if there are companies out there looking to improve their workplace but are struggling to get started, what advice would you give them to make that first step? Heidi?
I think very much that there's a little bit about, I suppose, standing back and smelling the roses. Where are you at? What do you notice going on around you? And what have you got in place? So it could be something as simple as, have you got all the right support mechanisms in place? Whether that be something which supports me to have that time off, even looking outside of what somebody might traditionally look at for mental health. It's that ability to take annual leave if they need to, take time off for dependents if they need to. Have you got all that support in place? What do you think you need? It could be that you think, I'm actually interested in, for example, an EAP. Start talking to some businesses, just Googling, looking at EAPs, for example, and start talking to them. And because sometimes it gives you ideas of other things that you might want to put in place. I think that's very much a starting point. Another one as well is perhaps having some kind of channel where you can share information. So very much, for example, actually start talking about mental health. Maybe we did some presentations with Safe in Our World and Mind Fitness, where we started just talking about different types of mental health conditions, for example, and just opening those conversations meant that people started talking about things and how they could help each other. And then that can lead you on to perhaps other things that you think, right, I might need to put some support in place for that. And allowing people to genuinely, if I'm not feeling great today, then people have the confidence to come forward and say, actually, I need today off and it's for mental health reasons. You'll know that actually people feel confident to come and talk to you. It's having very much somebody to go to. So whether that's somebody in HR, whether that's your lead, another colleague, somebody to talk to, those are all the first steps to moving forwards, from my experience so far.
And I would add to that and just say to any company that's starting out with this is just don't be afraid to ask your staff as well. They are that really valuable source of information. So what is it they're needing? What are they looking for? And there's different ways you can do that, whether it be through surveys or coffee break sessions, just whichever fits your ethos really of connecting with your staff. And it's most likely that somebody's already thought of a solution. So I echo what Heidi said, use external sources as well, talk to people, gain their expertise. Safe in Our World will be an excellent place to go for that. So just use people around you to really help you move forward. But absolutely, definitely ask your staff, I'd say.
And I think you can get some really good ideas as well if you're thinking, I want to have a bit of information before I start talking to anybody. Literally going through, there's a really helpful document that Sarah sent from Safe in Our World, which gives you some great things to kind of start you off with. I'm sure Sarah can talk about it, But there's lots of ideas there as well, thinking, oh, do I have that? Is that something which might benefit people? And as Sarah Howell said, yeah, talking to people however you feel most comfortable to do so, and they feel most comfortable to do so as well.
And then you've got that kind of rounded information then to be able to start putting your plan together and move it forward and take people on that journey with you, so that they're part of it and they've had some input into it, which is always going to make it very valuable.
Yeah, and don't think that you're going to be able to do it all very quickly. You need to take a measured pace so that something is embedded in the right way. And the other thing that's really essential is keep it alive. Very much don't launch something and then think, oh, I've done that. So for example, you know, if you do want to start talking about mental health, you don't need to wait till the Mental Health Awareness Month in May and only do it then. Keep it alive as something. It doesn't have to be every week, but perhaps every month, 6 weeks, you just have something that you can talk about, whether it's like a helpful newsletter, signposting to a resource, or having a conversation or a refresher on something. Treat it very much like, if it's first aiders, you don't get trained once, or fire wardens, it's something that you constantly refreshed on. Mental health is just as important.
Yeah, I mean, echo everything that you've said there. Obviously, I'm going to give a little plug to Level Up, hashtag Level Up Mental Health. That's our program for the industry. It costs nothing to join, and we have a lot of resources to enable any company of any size get started. We've got a great toolkit. We've got lots of resources that Heidi spoke about, how to get started with a wellbeing charter, you know, how to, you know, write a policy. But the most important things to me, if you want to get started, is tell your staff that you are taking their mental health as seriously as their physical health. Just tell your staff that, and like Heidi and Sarah have said, don't just say it once. Once you've got something together, you need to keep going, and the most successful companies that are doing that are pushing stuff out every month when you know, when they've got new resources available, or it is a day that comes up that they can then start talking about. But look at training, get some of your staff trained up as mental health first aiders. Come to us, we'll happily do lunch and learns just to talk about mental health in general. Think about maybe getting mental health ambassadors or mental health champions within your organisation, so that it's not just down to you. Spread the load, get some other people helping with this as well. And just generally, just get your staff involved, get your talent knowing that you're there to look after them. And it isn't just playing lip service, you're serious about it. And then, you know, from then on, you can build a foundation that you can build on from there. But I think, yeah, they're the important things. But please do come and talk to us at Safe in Our World. It won't cost you anything. And it's a really good place to get started. And I'd like one day for there to be a community of us that we can talk to each other, share best practice, and just keep that conversation going. Because, you know, I think Sarah was on a wellness day the other day. She had a day off. That's a great idea. But just to share ideas of what's working for them in their companies that maybe other companies hadn't thought of. So it's a big share of information. And just try and get us all on the same page and just reduce stigma, get us talking.
Lovely. One of the things that I'm picking up from this is that flexibility is really important here. And I know from judging these awards, I've seen a few companies that will say, you know, where it's very regimented what they do for their staff. Whether, you know, a good one might be, you know, for some bereavement in the family, for instance, they'll get a couple of days. So if it's grandparent, it's this amount of time off, and if it's a parent, it's this amount of time off. And I sort of look at that every time I look at those answers, and I'm like, I don't think it works like that. And I think that sounds like that's pretty much how you answered every question, was talk to your staff, be open to adapting. So brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you, Heidi. Thank you, Sarah and Sarah. That'll be fun for the podcast. And thank you all at home for listening or watching if you're on YouTube. This session plus all the others running all week will be available to watch again on YouTube or download as a podcast. And by the end of the week, you'll be able to find a write-up of all these sessions on GamesIndustry.biz. So do check it out if you want to read up on it and remind yourself of what was said. And don't forget to come back to us on Thursday, September 16th at 4 p.m. to find out the winners of the UK Best Places to Work Awards. I'll see you then. Thank you very much.